Souls, Avalon here, and I thought that it was high time that I do a little clarification. So this morning, at some ungodly hour of the morning, I think it was, I uploaded a very generic and staged video using a title for a video that has been done over and over and over and over again. And the response that I have received because of this video has been incredibly interesting and exactly what I was looking for. Exactly what I was looking for. The first load of responses or dosing of responses, hello Luna, the first wave, we'll call it that, of responses was, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, this is weird and fake and this is this. And yes, I'm so glad that I received those videos and I'm so glad that you were able to tell because yes, that was me being outwardly fake. That was me pretending. That was me faking the fuck out of it. And I can explain to you in so many ways, and it would take me hours and hours and hours to explain the why I did this. But at the end of the day is because I believe that the modern version of witchcraft as it stands today, particularly as it's perceived here on social media, is in fact quite fake, quite shallow, and all about the aesthetic. Now, I did not want to believe this at all. I didn't. And yet I am subscribed to so many incredible channels. And I can see that those incredible channels are not thriving in the same way as those channels who really, really project the aesthetic. And I don't have a problem with the aesthetic per se. There are those whose authenticity and whose practice is deeply anchored into the aesthetic. There are those whose love of fashion and self-expression, whose love of makeup are really tied into their craft. And it's not to you that I'm speaking. It is not about you that I am talking about. It is the wave of generic content that is out there receiving accolades. This is regurgitated books from the 80s that I hear all the time. If you are well read and you know your shit and you start watching the majority of these channels that are talking about which from a generic perspective, you'll identify exactly which authors are influencing that individual. And I've read them all. And I'm not the only person to read them all. They're the beginner's books, folks. The beginner's books. And then I look at those channels who are freely sharing the depth of wisdom that is impossible to find, even in books. And their channels are tiny. Their accounts are minuscule. They have no buttons, they have no social media privileges, they're not receiving the opportunities, they're not receiving the same kind of treatment as these big aesthetic channels. Now, why does this bother me? It bothers me because I grew up in a tradition where the crone was revered. You respected your elders, the crone was revered, and it was never about how the crone looked. It was always about how the crone conducted his or herself, in this case herself. And I look at the way that people treated my grandmother, and I see an absence of that treatment. And I see an absence of the crone here on social media. It's almost like it's an unwelcome platform for the crone here. It's not built for it. It's only really built for the maiden. It's only really built for the aesthetic. And I suppose if you are going to jump on YouTube like we have done and I have done, etc., then you're prepared to sort of like dance to the entertainment industry a little bit. And that's okay. Like, that's a knowing decision. That's a conscious and knowing decision. But then it doesn't have to be like that. In fact, it shouldn't be like that. I would have thought that witchcraft, being that it was and it has been for so long on the fringe, it would be kind of immune to the same types of personal narcissisms that social media loves to fucking flaunt. I would have thought that that was the case, but of course not all things are immune, and not everything is immune to that kind of thing. Eventually, everything has a little taste of it. Everything has a little taste of that aesthetic. But in witchcraft, it bothers me the most, because witchcraft is a place where people go to express themselves authentically. It is a true and honest path of authenticity, of personal power, and of understanding the self in order to achieve self-mastery. It's a powerful, powerful avenue in which to dance naked and drum, no matter what your size or shape is. It's not about having long hair or short hair, or painting your face or not painting your face. It's about genuine and honest and to goodness expression. Now, for those who are curious, who was the person that was speaking in that video? How to know if you're a witch. That was my drunk alter ego, Lola, Mistress of the Night. Was I drunk when I did that video? No, I wasn't. But I had to call upon some kind of personality that I understood well, because I'm not a born actress, believe it or not. I come on here, I say my shit, and half the time I regret what I say almost instantaneously, because I have no filter and I speak from a place of passion and personal pride. When I speak of my craft, I'm not speaking of just my own craft. I am a traditional witch, and I come from a tradition, and I speak from every witch that has ever had a hand in raising me and shaping my practice. I speak on behalf of any witch who has influenced me in a positive manner. And I think that it is so fucking sad that the aesthetic is the thing these days. And I can rattle off dozens of channels. I would like to fucking rattle off dozens of channels. I would like to put forth Joey Morris, as I've already said. I would like to put forth Chris Ashburn, who is a death midwife. How much do you honestly think you can learn about death and the veil from a death midwife? A person who has genuine interest in the subject and who has studied and been certified and has a YouTube channel. And you will know Joey and you will know Chris. They love each other. They're soul siblings. Laura Rain, when she can get her ass into gear and share her shit, is studying anthropology, and she speaks from things from a very passionate point of view, but also a very educated academically point of view. And then there is people whose names I can't quite pronounce. There is that beautiful Irish, I think, lady that is associated to the Wolfing Howl Press. I cannot. Tilrian, I can't. Penry, something. I can't pronounce her name. She is an incredible, incredible individual with a wealth of knowledge. Annika Garrett, the Sea Priestess. She has been sharing her wisdom as cultivated through her genuine and authentic practice since I had arrived on YouTube. It's amazing what she shares, and it's amazing how her practice ebbs and flows, and what she chooses to share ebbs and flows as well. And you can see genuine seasons to her. Likewise, you can see genuine seasons to any of these individuals that I'm mentioning. You see Kelly Ann Maddox of the Four Queens, formerly of the Four Queens, and you will understand very quickly how a witch can be academic without actually having to, send herself into debt to achieve that type of information, to really absorb that type of information. This is a woman that deserves respect. Any of these individuals that I'm speaking of does. Benabel Wen. Have you ever met anyone who embodied a walking brain? A smart person's brain on legs, like an incredible, astute individual who has a heart of fucking gold. Where is her subscriber buttons? Where are her, her accolades? Where is it for her, And she's not motivated by that. She's doing very well herself, And this is not about subscriber numbers, and it's not about money, and it's not about the accolade. It's about respect. It is about that respect, and more respect is given to the aesthetic in modern culture than in the individual who might not look, bang on every single day. Look at me. No makeup, chapped lips, my hourglasses, my beanie that's not really sitting well on my head, my hair isn't brushed, and I'm in my Ugg boots. Look, I'm in my actual sheepskin Ugg boots, sitting on my Wanderer camping mattress because that's what I sleep on because I live off-grid. Now, the fact that I am a witch that lives in the middle of the wilderness, 28 acres, do you know what I get the most of? As this witch, this traditional hereditary witch, mother of 3, married, who does this drastic life fucking change and leaves everything that I know up in a place that I once called home to come down here and live 100% off grid. My energy comes from solar panels, my water comes from the rain, and I'm sleeping on a camping mattress and have been for the last 3 months. And do you know what I'm often told? That I'm either faking it, that I don't look like a witch, I don't sound like a witch, and just nothing really nice other than, that's great, you're crazy, or ew, off grid, what's your toilet situation? And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, my head's in a different place, folks. I'm not mentally unstable, I assure you. I'm more stable than ever before. I'm more grounded, and I see things now because I live here so far removed from commercialism. I don't walk down the streets and I'm not bombarded with propaganda. I don't own a TV. I don't own a TV. I don't watch TV. I occasionally watch YouTube, and I'm subscribed to people who I actually give a damn about because they have contributed to the legacy of my personal practice. Not because they look amazingly aesthetic, not because they look really witchy. And then at the same time, I'm a person who obviously likes to get her feathers ruffled, because as I listen to channels, I often type in the words witch or witchcraft to YouTube's search engine, and I look at what's being contributed because that's how I usually find new channels on witchcraft. I do the same thing for tarot and the same thing for tiny homes and the same thing for zero waste and off-grid living stuff, right? I want to know who's contributing to the topics here on YouTube because this is my preferred platform. I've got sniffles. And, what I see, it's sad. It's really really sad to me, and it's just, it just makes me cringe. The biggest pet peeve. You're unapologetic, authentic. Thank you, Astra. And sorry, I'm gonna cough. Excuse me. What I see is just, it's ridiculous. It's misinformation at its most extreme. It's regurgitated, recycled information from books, but it's been recycled incorrectly as well. And then I browse places like Instagram, which is my second favorite platform, and and what I see are people snapping photos of books, right? Snapping photos of books, of witchcraft-related books. And I think, oh, yeah, that's great. Like, I want to look that book up. I'm going to download that on Kindle. I'm going to have a look at the reviews. Goodreads gives them great reviews from all these witchy peeps. And then I read them, and they are not fit for toilet paper. They are so crap, so superficial, so generic. And what do they have in common? A beautiful fucking cover. A gorgeous witchy cover, and it sucks everybody in, and then they start talking about how amazing this book is. And the book isn't amazing, it's utter crap. I'm reading one right now at my book club, and it's utter crap. And upon reading it and dissecting it with my fellow community book club members, they too agree that it's utter crap. And this is like 70 people came to the same conclusion about this book, and we're all perplexed, scratching our heads going, why is this got such a great, review? Like, I don't understand why it's got such a great review. Most of what I said in my video that was launched this morning on how to know if you're a witch, I genuinely believe I could have added a few more things, and I could have, elaborated on quite a few more. And I may make that video again just to do it justice. But it's incredible how many times that video in itself has been made. That video, how to know if you're a witch. Google it. How to know if you're a witch, how to know if you're practicing witchcraft. And usually, and somebody actually wrote this on my video, and that's, if you practice witchcraft, you're a witch. And I'm like, that's pretty much the same answer that I would give behind the scenes. And I'm like, how to know if you're a witch? You wake up and you are one and you practice witchcraft, you know. But it's not as simple as that as well. There are those who are going through an awakening process who actually need a little breadcrumb scenario, Hansel and Gretel style. And they need a little something to help them, to guide them in a direction of knowing or acknowledgement and empowerment. Now, I have said this dozens of times. You cannot teach witchcraft. You simply cannot teach witchcraft. Anyone who's teaching witchcraft, I don't know what they're teaching, but you can't. You cannot teach witchcraft. You must assist an individual to remember their own craft. Witchcraft is a legacy of the ancient world. Everybody has a connection to it. You may not want a connection to it, and yet you might have a connection to it. Those who are genuinely drawn to witchcraft are haunted by it. From an inside out, they hear the word, and it's a calling. It's a perpetual calling. And it is something that you assist an individual to remember. When I go through awakening processes with coven initiates, it is through meditative practice, through journeying, through underworld, upperworld journeying, through sacred alignment, through nature work, through embedding of talismans, through the activation of the physical and ethereal body, through having that individual understand their responsibility to their biosphere so that they can better understand their biosphere, because their biosphere is the biggest source of fucking wisdom and healing that they will ever find. And yet, that's not what is ever said. Now, I have conversations behind the scenes with beautiful, amazing, creative practitioners, people that have quite a big following. Do you know, I was hanging out with my lovely buddy and neighbour, Gordon White of Rune Soup, on Friday. We got smasho and we talked about all sorts of shit, and the witch aesthetic conversation came up as well. I might actually try and wrangle Gordon for my show here. But if you want to read some good books, Gordon actually writes them. He's written one for Scarlet Imprint called the Chaos Protocols. He's a chaos magician. And also Starships, the history of the spirits. And I will like to read Starships, a history of the spirits, for one of our coven books. And that brings me to my next subject. And that is this another, am I faking people into my Patreon page? No, I'm not faking people into my Patreon page. It's part of the whole aesthetic. You dress up, you start your videos with, hi, welcome, this is what I'm selling, now listen to the tripe that is coming out of my fucking mouth. And so I decided to do exactly the same thing. Did I feel like crawling out of my own fucking skin? Yes, I did. Did I make a video directly after that, kind of laughing about how ridiculous I thought the whole process to be? Yeah, I did. When I took the thumbnail photos that has me looking all aesthetic, that's filtered to the fuck, because I don't look like that. I do in ritual. I do in ritual space paint my face. I actually paint my body. Most of my rituals, especially my deep magic rituals, are conducted outside in nature, butt naked, wrapped in some kind of fur with shit through my hair, and I take my shit primal and very seriously. I bought a little taste. I had to bring a little taste of that. But my makeup doesn't look so good when I'm in ritual, because it's smeared. Like, I smear my body and I carve into my skin so I've got welts, because I want to feel it, because I'm a bit fucking intense with my witchcraft. And that's the example of witchcraft that I have and that I was raised in. And not every witch is going to be like that. There will be witches that are way more placid but no less authentic. There will be witches that are way more hardcore and no less authentic. There will be witches who do this in that aesthetic, but you can feel, because it's not a mask, you can feel that part of their magic and part of their passion and part of their power is tied to their ability to create that beautiful aesthetic. I actually can't create that aesthetic. I don't know how to do myself up in this manner. I had to like research and shit. It was difficult. It didn't come naturally to me, but it comes naturally to some people, and that is where their pool of interest is geared. Does that make them less authentic? No, because like I said, I'm not having a go at those whose aesthetic is tied to their practice, because there is that as well. I'm not saying that witchcraft is full of haggard men and women. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that witchcraft is full of real men and women and children and those who don't gender identify. I'm saying that witchcraft is crazy. It's on the edge. It is on the hedge. It's not about what's in a Sephora window. It is not about what's in any commercial space whatsoever. And yet you will see reflections of witchcraft now in commercial spaces. You will see it in the fashion industry. You will see it. And it's, yes, a little bit flattering, but at the same time, it's kind of taking something from those who live and breathe their practice. By the way, if you are watching this and you are liking anything that I'm saying right now, please give this one a thumbs up, because I've been hit hard this morning with fucking criticisms that, I won't lie, did hurt my feelings. I'm a living, breathing human being. If I haven't mentioned this before, I pee as well. I have snot pouring out of my nose as well. I'm a mother. I have feelings. I sleep, I wake up, I worry, I stress. I go through periods that are high and I go through periods that are low, because I'm still a human being underneath all of this. I'm still a human being. And I've got to say that, you know, I was so impressed with this reaction that I got, because I was going to be heartbroken this morning if I had have looked on my YouTube channel and seen that everybody approved. That would have broken my heart. And so already I feel that witchcraft is not as shallow as I thought that it was. It was becoming. Not that witchcraft is shallow, nor do I think that it's globally shallow in any way. When I spoke to my family back home about this, and let me just say, my family are far removed from whatever happens here on YouTube. They don't actually watch me. They don't give a fuck. They know that I'm on YouTube talking about witchcraft, and they're more like, just don't talk about me and we'll be all right. It'll be all apples. And when I start talking about this, you know what they said to me? Why do you even care? Why do you even care? And I'm like, wow, yeah, why do I even care? When I told my best friend and former coven sister that I was doing this, she's like, yeah, but why? And I'm like, because nobody else is. Nobody else is talking about this. Nobody else is going through the process. Nobody else is actually as pissed off as I am. Now, I am not a person that has ever been motivated by subscribers, and you can see that in every way that I conduct myself. I don't trim the fat, you know. I don't offer oodles and oodles of giveaways. I don't do the things that people do to receive more subscribers. I'm not a regular uploader. I don't follow any kind of schedule. I just don't do the things. And that's because I'm not propelled by a need to be liked. Because witchcraft isn't about being liked. In fact, I have had to wander the earth to this day trying to avoid the fearful eyes of individuals and the cruelty of people when they do fear you. Do I look like a witch? No, I fucking don't. But that is a little mechanism that came about through this desire to self-preserve for the fact that I was born and raised on the streets of Rio de Janeiro. If you've ever been to Rio, then you'll know that safety is your main priority. And so I just don't, unless I'm in ritual circle, unless I'm actually going out to ritual and it's a coven gathering, it's a full moon thing. The witches and I would get together and we would adorn ourselves in manners that I wish I could walk down the street in. I would love to walk down the street in my blood red ball gown with black tulle and my beautiful necklaces and my wild as fuck hair. I would love to be able to do that. But where I lived, it was too goddamn hot, and I don't like it when people look at me. I prefer my witchcraft to fly under the radar. I want to be the person that people don't suspect in a room. I want to be that person. I don't want to be the identifiable witch. Or there's that woman's a witch. How can you tell? You can't tell. And I'm often told that I don't look like a witch, that I don't sound like a witch. I can't possibly be a witch. I'm also often told that I'm not Brazilian, and that one there actually makes me laugh quite a bit because I'm white and have an Australian accent. I can't possibly be from another country. That one requires a little blinking, a little extra blinking. Darcy, maybe authenticity will become fashionable in our spiritual practice. Let's hope so. Now, I hear the talk of authenticity and I hear it all the time. And I know that Kellyanne Maddox is actually doing Self-Love September, and I think she does a good job on Self-Love September. But I would like to bring about Authenticity April, because that's just popped into my head now. And this is what I mean. I say things before I have an opportunity to think about them. Authenticity April is going to be a thing. Just wait for it. I'm going to do something now because I've already put it out there. But the baseline of all of this, folks, is I haven't lost my mind. And no, the content on my channel isn't going to be a whole bunch of staged videos. It's going to be a little personal statement that I just want to know. I want to know in the long term how much attention these particular generic videos get with me dressed up like, I don't know, Lola, Mistress of the Night. I want to know how much how that's received in a year or 2 years, because I've been on YouTube for years and years and years now, right? And I've had videos that have been watched hundreds of thousands of times, and I want to know how these videos fare, you know, on YouTube, on my channel. And you know, and I've had people already critique my my social experiment. You know, I'm being accused of all sorts of things at the moment, but you know what, triggers are triggers, and if somebody's going to, you know, want to accuse me of something, then a little bit of self-examination also doesn't go astray. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not aiming this at any one specific person. And yes, there are, Jezebel Von Tex, there are more coming. I've got 3 more. And it was actually very exhausting. It was exhausting to paint myself up. I actually followed my husband around the property trying to get my gimbal to work. And I was all dressed up, but I knew I needed to put my face on. And he was stacking timber, and what he was doing seemed an awful lot more interesting than me putting on my face to do videos that required me to act quite a bit out of character. I don't like it. I just don't like it. I'm not the type of person that has ever been accused of being fake. In fact, I'm oftentimes accused of being far too honest for my own good. And that is because I am that way inclined. I actually care about things like truth and honesty and authenticity. I actually prefer knowledge over aesthetic, and I think I will always be that way. I will prefer to read a good book and tell people that I've read a good book, not to read a book or buy a book and go, this book was amazing, because I don't have a brain with the capacity to analyze that book. And I think that when it comes to books, there's a personal responsibility to each individual that reads a book to give it a damn good review, good or bad. And I don't mean good as in like it has to be a good review. Give it a decent and honest review, because people actually do read reviews and they will go and buy a book based on a certain number of reviews. And also, if you are going to photograph something on Instagram, then make sure that it's a book that you love, because people are just going to look at it. They're not going to read the descriptions, and they're going to go and buy the book only to photograph it again, tell people how amazing it is. And it's this domino effect of stupidity that is just far out of control. Now, the book that we are reading at this moment in time is The Green Witch by Erin Murphy Hitchcock, something like that. Now, I respect any author who puts pen to paper and creates a work of art. Is that my cup of tea of a book? No. But does that book get a really fucking good review? Yes, it does. Does that book have a killer cover? Yes, it does. It has a beautiful cover. It has an aesthetic cover. And I find that any book that has an aesthetic cover and that covers the topic of witchcraft is going to be a bought book, a highly popular book, because it looks great on Instagram and on bookshelves and things like that. When I moved down to Tasmania to explore just a completely different life, and I You knew I had to sell a whole bunch of my decks and books I gave away. It was really taxing. It was a really sad time for me, but it was also a really cathartic time for me, because I got to relieve myself of all the books that I'd been holding on to for so long that actually were out of tripe, but I had some kind of emotional connection to, because they were so pretty and because so many people did like them. Now, for the longest time while I lived in specific places in Australia, I had a very, very big occult library, and I had books that I just did not like at all or enjoy, because a lot of people would borrow my books, and I had kind of like a borrowable library for my community. Coming across big libraries of occult literature is not something that you always can do. It's not something that happens organically. So you have to sort of chance it. And in modern day, when all of our good bookstores are actually closing down, I'm not sure what the situation is for you in whichever parts of the world you are, but I just know that a whole bunch of physical bookstores have actually closed down here in Australia. And what you have is the blessing of Book Depository and Amazon, right? And then you've got Goodreads for your reviews. And a lot of people are not writing the genuinely good review. Goodreads is actually better. There are people there that will just like fucking tear a book to shreds, and I totally appreciate it. And it's not about being negative, it's about being honest. And there is that difference, that if you are too honest, then you get dubbed as being ultra negative. When no, you're not ultra negative, you're just fucking honest. And you still have a smile on your face. I'm that person. I'm not negative, I'm just honest. And I still always smile, and I have a really good life, and I have thriving, beautiful children, a wonderful husband, I have incredible friends, and I'm very, very lucky to have those things, because I can be a little intense, as you can see. And I care deeply and passionately about this. The witch aesthetic to me is out of control right now, and I do feel very badly for those amazing channels, the occult channels that are out there sharing their shit, and that have been sharing their shit for ages. Lady Gravedancer knows her shit, right? She's been sharing her shit on YouTube for so long. She has been on YouTube for so long. Where's her goddamn button? Where's her goddamn buttons? You know? And it's one of those situations that you're forced to sort of query, like, why don't you have more attention? Like, why don't more people watch you? Because gosh, if more people maybe watched these individuals, they would learn so much. And that's the thing, it's so much better to learn from an individual than it is to learn from an edited book. Are books amazing? Yes, they are. Do they serve a valuable function? Yes, they do. And I would never tell somebody not to read. In fact, I'm always telling people to read the books, the old books, to be fair. But the books, at the end of the day, are the edited version of one person's opinion. So it's limited in the sense that it's one person's thought process, and it's been edited and polished to look very nice. What you get on YouTube is that plus more. It's one person's opinion. You get to look at that person's face, and you get to see their level of authenticity and what they're doing. And it's unedited. It's rough as guts, and it should be, because it's people talking about the things that I absolutely fucking love, right? It's not about the aesthetic, and it should never have been about the aesthetic. And yet there are so many big channels here on YouTube, on Instagram, pages on Facebook that are all about the aesthetic. And these people are being offered book deals. They're being offered sponsorship deals. Meanwhile, the knowledgeable little individual that doesn't look witchy enough is hosting open circles or online workshops and not even getting a look in because they don't dress the part. And so should they dress the part? Fuck no, they shouldn't, because it would look exactly the same as me dressed up, acting like a weirdo, right? That's exactly what would happen if you pretend to be something you're not. And yet, I never came on YouTube pretending to be something that I'm not. Maybe if I had started my channel with that personality, it might have been a very different thing. But it's not, and I'm not really concerned about that all that much. But it does bother me to see people who have who I love and respect, who know their shit, and I can identify it when somebody knows their shit. If I sit there and I'm like, I never heard that before, I never thought that before, wow, I never had that idea before, that's amazing, that's, yeah, okay. If I feel the need to get a pen and paper to write something down because I'm watching someone on YouTube or listening to their podcast or maybe reading their blog, if that happens to me, then automatically I'm learning from that individual. Automatically they're going to teach me something. And we are so lucky to have YouTube, and we are so lucky to have podcasts. We are so lucky to have blogs to learn from, because it means for those who don't have the coin to invest in a vast library of books, they don't have to. You just have to buy the ones, the right books, the ones that you know, that you've heard, the titles that you've heard a bajillion times over the course of 10 or 15 or 20 years. Like, there's a reason why the Spiral Dance keeps celebrating its anniversaries. It's been printed so many times across, 20 years, 20 plus years? Oh, probably more. There's a reason why Triumph Over the Moon is such an interesting and compelling read, and on most people's bookshelves. And when I say most people, I'm talking about most witches that actually do give a shit about their craft. And it's because they're not interesting. They're academic reads. They're impossible to read. You actually feel like you need a dictionary to get through these books. But once you've actually gotten through these books, they are so eye-opening. They give you such an interesting perspective. If you want to know what I'm reading behind the scenes, I'm reading academic journals. Thank you, Alora Rain, who is studying university and who gives me access to her academic journals. I was reading a journal about witchcraft, consumerism, and community. And a lot of what I'm saying to you here right now has been academically studied from an anthropological point of view. And yes, they've called bullshit on it, because it is such bullshit. It is bullshit that the pretty aesthetic of witchcraft be the thing, instead of the blood, the bone, the guts, the primal, the drumming, the work, all the work of a witch, all the work of a witch. How many witches are like crafting down to their bones? How many witches bleed on the earth? Blood, sweat, and tear kinds of magic. How many witches are compelled by the sacred divine to express themselves in any manner that really feeds their authenticity? That's the nature of witchcraft, and it's not pretty. It's fucking gorgeous. It's fucking beautiful, but it's not pretty, and it doesn't mix well with an aesthetic. It just is. It just is. Witchcraft has always had a look and has always had a feel to it, and it's dirty, and it's primal, and it's kind of like scary. It's kind of scary. Witchcraft is magic, and witches practice magic, and it's not the necessarily good kind. Okay, it's the dirty kind. It can sometimes be the mean kind. It can sometimes be the harsh, the compassionate through the harsh endeavor. It can be many, many things, but it's not the good kind. And this is why I've never really understood the term white witch or good witch. I've never understand that term. I'm not going to criticize it though, because it's not my business to identify for another individual. I'm never going to turn around and say to a person, you don't look like a white witch, because that's exactly the same as somebody walking up to me and saying, you don't look like a witch. Does it hurt my feelings? Yeah, it does. Did I say that before? Yes, I have. How many times have I said it so far? 3, because that's how much it bothers me. Power of 3. So mote it be, right? Now, there is so much to be said about this, and nobody that's really talking about it. Not really. And then Sephora goes and teases about the release of a witch kit, and there's a global uprising. It's suddenly too much. And I'm like, yeah, 90%. Oh no, that's an outrageous statement. Let's say 50, for lack of better education. 50% of of aesthetic witches are painting up their faces and doing a hell of a job, but are simultaneously giving Sephora shit for their witch kit. Where are people buying their makeup from to do their faces up to look amazingly witchy? Like where? Chances are they've wandered into a Sephora every once in a while. Is that not buying makeup for witchcraft? Is that not part of a witch's practice, or at least the attainment of an aesthetic? I don't understand why there was so much of a stir. And I also want to put out there that, you know, what if a witch actually thought that it was a really good idea and it was an extension of their craft, or, you know, it was their dream, a witch's dream, to release a little witch kit through a company like Sephora, just like it can be somebody's dream to release a book and have it published through maybe Llewellyn, for instance, or through Scarlet Imprint. And like, what if that's the case? Then that person doesn't get his or her way because it didn't go down that well. But the fact of the matter is, right now where I stand in modern witchcraft and neo-paganism today, right at this moment in time, what's the date? 9th of September. I know because it's my little sister's birthday. Witchcraft is highly aesthetic. There is a capitalist nature to witchcraft. It's very consumer driven. And it doesn't necessarily have to be consumer driven. I'm now trying to practice a more zero waste lifestyle where I upcycle and recycle a hell of a lot more. And I do this mostly on my Patreon because that side of my personality and that side of my life is something that involves my family. And I wasn't comfortable putting my family on YouTube. I didn't want them to be fodder for public criticism like I am. It's one thing for me to put my face out there. It's a beautiful thing, but Sephora taking advantage of that makes less sacred. Yes, that's exactly right. There are so many opinions on that Sephora witch kit, and there's good and bad, and there's always a positive and a negative to everything. But I will say this, the aesthetic is here, it's very prominent, it's very strong, and it's edging out the fringe. And I used to love the fact that witchcraft was the fringe. I used to love the fact that the crone was fucking revered. The old women, the ancestors of modern witchcraft. Holy fuck, how much money would I pay to sit in circle with one of these people? I've never had the opportunity, aside from my own lineage, I've never had the opportunity to meet one of witchcraft's great influences, literary or otherwise. Would I like to meet Laurie Cabot? She's very aesthetically witch, isn't she? But she also walks her walk and talks her talk, and her actions and her books and her opinions, yes, they're out there and they're wild, but fucking hell, she really holds her own, and she has for a very long time, right? You might actually learn something from any one of her books, and you might not. And a lot of people don't really resonate too much with Laurie Cabot's work, but then there is a whole bunch of people that do respect her for what she has done and how she has chosen to do it. She dresses witch every day. It's part of her aesthetic. It's part of her magic. And this is a perfect example of a witch whose aesthetic is integrated into their practice. It's just part of their practice. And mad respect for that. Mad fucking respect for that. Superficiality is a subject that matters. I'm streaming straight off my phone here, guys. So it's sort of the bubbles come up and then I lose them if I don't look at them immediately. And I'm too busy trying not to like shake the camera because I'm moving around quite a bit. My elbows are in my camping mattress. I would like to get a shiki futon to sleep on because I am on a Wanderer camping mattress, and the reality of my life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. I had to clean human pee because one of the compost toilets overflowed. Human pee. I'm a witch that wanders around, not looking witchy apparently, and cleaning up human pee. When I was talking to Gordon on the weekend, I'm like, and the reason why I'm not wearing a beanie and I'm wearing this red scarf is because I got human pee on my beanie. And we just laughed so much because we're like, living the dream, you know. Anyway, but that's the thing. Like, I'm a genuine person, and I'm a witch. I have a family that knows 100% that I'm a witch because almost my entire family, with the exception of my Australian half, far removed from me, they all know that I am as pagan as fuck, that I am an animist, that I am a witch. My father even knows now that I'm a bit more ecologically conscious and that I don't like plastic, and that whenever he purchases soft plastics that I get grumpy now. But at the end of the day, I am more than just my one video where Lola, Mistress of the Night, jumped out and decided to take the piss for a bit. And I did what I wanted to do through that video, and I've still got 3 more to release, because I ended up filming 3 videos on the one day, because it was really, really time consuming to get that dressed up and to just get into that character. And I thought I may as well like sit here and capitalize on this for the moment, because I don't think I want to do this again. I didn't want to dress up again. I didn't want to do that. I do want to look pretty. I do. As a woman, I want to look pretty. And as a mother, you can sometimes forget the value of the aesthetic. And I do have a very interesting heart-to-heart where I bleed a little, through my mouth and my emotions. And that one's going up on Patreon after the second video that I release here. So for every video that I release on YouTube, I also release a behind the scenes of that video on Patreon. And I talk about how that made me feel, because it is about how it makes me feel. Did that video make me feel unauthentic? Yes, it fucking did. Did it connect me to Lola, Mistress of the Night? Yes, it did. So good times, because I haven't been connected to Lola, Mistress of the Night for ages. Did it help me to integrate certain facets? Yes. Did it help me to look at things through a different perspective? Yes, it did. It helped me to look at things through an infinitely different perspective. And I felt more right after I had done this than I ever had before. And the amount of comments that I received, good and bad, were a complete indicator of what I had originally thought. And thank God that people weren't all like, "This is amazing. I love your new look." Some people actually did say that. So sorry. It's not a look that you're going to see. I've got an itchy hand. I don't know how to itch it. Hang on. I'm going to lean you so that I can lean you. I love Lola. She's awesome. And Lola gets a lot of love. Don't you worry. Lola comes out to play every once in a while. But, and I want to say this for people who don't know too much of my story. For a big portion of my late teens and early 20s, the way that I supported myself financially was through modeling. Yes, I was a catwalk and photographic model. People paid me money. They paid me $90 every time I walked down the catwalk, and that's like some years ago now. I did not go far in my modeling, not because I wasn't given the opportunity. I was as skinny as a fucking twig. I had the right look. I had the right hair. I had the right color eyes. I knew how to strike a pose. I was very popular and I was sought after in my particular area. And eventually I just kicked it to the curb because I didn't like the overall aesthetic. I didn't like the emphasis on the look over the content. I would sometimes have something to say about what I was wearing and how I thought that maybe it would look different or better in a different way. My opinion didn't matter. I was simply just the look. And sometimes, that haunts me a little bit, that haunts me. And so when I see too pretty a witchcraft, I start to get a bit crazy and I start to feel like something insidious is invading a space that is very near and dear to my heart, a practice that I take deadly fucking seriously. I bleed for my craft on the earth. I will take my moon cup out while I'm squatting in nature so the blood just pours on the earth. That's the type of person that I am when the camera is not on me. I am the type of person that rallies witches together. I journey, I drum, I cry, I sing, I scream. I sing the old songs in Yoruba because that's what I was taught when I was a baby. And I am a hereditary witch. I'm a hereditary fucking witch. And do you know what? Somebody actually said to me the other day, hereditary's boring. And I thought to myself, I hope every single ancestor in my web has heard that and you suffer the wrath. That's exactly what I heard and felt and said and thought and all of those things. Hereditary is boring. There is such an emphasis on eclecticism, but there's also a link to eclecticism and shallow witchcraft. There is absolutely the individual who is eclectic and absolutely amazingly astute and adept at their craft, because they themselves have had the self-discipline to go deep. Not everyone has that self-discipline to go deep. A lot of people are at witchcraft to be influenced, and the superficial overview is all they are ever going to be able to give, because anything more than that would be considered work, and work is fucking hard. They haven't quite understood that witchcraft is all about the work, and that the work is the good bit, the fun bit, the awesome bit. So it is very perplexing to me, this whole witchcraft aesthetic. It's very perplexing to me. And do I have more that I could say? I could talk for hours on this subject. I could talk for hours, and chances are I would just go ahead and piss a whole bunch of new people off, because those who don't like what I'm saying, well, you have the opportunity to not listen, but there will be those that still have that desire or feel compelled to be mean. I'm all right with mean. If you didn't know, my mother is a criminal attorney, and I grew up around the weirdest people, and I can handle mean. I grew up in Rio de Janeiro. I can handle mean. I can handle myself. I really, really can. And stuff like this doesn't keep me up at night. But the fact that the modern populace is more concerned with the aesthetic when it comes to witchcraft, that keeps me up at night. That actually does bother me, because anytime somebody does something in the name of witchcraft, because I identify openly as a witch, it affects me. Anytime I jump on here and I do something totally fucking stupid in the name of witchcraft, it will affect you if you identify as witch. We are more interconnected than we give credit for. There is an intricacy of connectivity amongst witches, and anyone who openly identifies as a witch. We are our own tribe. We are a form of family. Extended tribe, immediate tribe, family. Family as fuck. And it's all right. You don't have to like everybody in your family. But when somebody out there starts doing something that brings what I call shame on my practice, then that does keep me awake at night. Okay? That keeps me awake at night. There have been so many amazing witches that do not fit the aesthetic that championed for witchcraft to be where it is today. And that is openly accepted in part. There will still be people that want to burn you at the stake. This is an Amnesty International affair that happens in Papua New Guinea, not something that happened in the Dark Ages. It's still happening right now. Have a look at modern culture and how they deal with witchcraft. We are very lucky to be able to claim the term witch so openly. I am very lucky in this country to be able to do that, and I respect that so much. I also respect that there are so many people that contributed to the freedom that I am able to experience today. So many people that didn't fit the aesthetic yet did the job that needed to be done to make sure that I was able to express myself as I am to you right now, as openly and freely as I am. There is a tremendous amount of respect. Those voices, those personalities can be found in old records, in old books. The modern aesthetic of witchcraft, it fucks me off so bad, because it is a complete and utter, just, it's a farce. It's just, I can't even. And again, I really want to emphasize the fact that there will be those who are tied to their aesthetic. Their witchcraft is tied to their aesthetic. It is not to you whom I am speaking. It is not about you whom I am speaking. There are those witches that express themselves beautifully through their fashion, because they are fashionistas. And that's beautiful. And I will look to these witches for fashion tips, because somebody's got to give me the fashion tips, because I'm a mum of 3. I don't have the time. I don't flick through magazines, and I don't look at fashion magazines. I'm not a fashionista. I never have been. I prefer earthy tones. Most of my clothing are green and blue. If I have something that's pink, it's a one-off, you know? And so there is room for everyone in witchcraft, and it doesn't have to be just one way, but it has to be better than what it's looking to be right now. It's so upsetting to me when I look at the hashtag witches of Instagram. Have a look, if you haven't already. Have a look at the people who are hashtagging witches of Instagram, and tell me if witch doesn't have an aesthetic. Tell me. Coming down with another cold because I sat outside at 3 degrees drinking wine. Thank you, Gordon. I'm sick now. My 8-year-old has already started learning the practice. It's beautiful. That's right. Yeah, there is such a thing as ritual triggers, using your ritual clothes and aesthetic, but those use only the means to access that. If you constantly are using witchy clothes to be one, well, it loses its magic. That's exactly right. You know, and I used to love the fact that you used to have your magical wardrobe and your mundane wardrobe, your magical and your mundane. And that's what a witch's life is about, the magical and the mundane, and how they fuse the two together. Now, I happen to work my witchcraft really well. I have that magic in the mundane. I have a magical outlook. I think that it is absolutely magical that I get to brush my teeth outside in the middle of a forest and just look around while murder of crows is flying over and a ravishing of ravens are coming over, because we have forest ravens and we have crows here. And then whenever I'm out there brushing my teeth with my homemade toothpaste that looks like mud, I get to experience that. And then I get to rinse my mouth out with water that I've cultivated from the rain. So now anytime that I want ritual water, I just go up to a tap and I can obtain rainwater as fallen from the heavens for my rituals, because it's been harnessed that way and untreated and amazing and cold and just delicious and pure. Now, I thought that I would feel much more differently when I moved down to Tasmania. I didn't know how my practice would go, and especially because I disconnected from my coven. And to be very clear, the reason why I'm starting a coven is because I was born and raised in a coven. For those who don't know, I was formally taught. I did my initiations just like everybody else. I was formally taught in a coven, and I have been in and out of covens my whole life, and I know that I find my feet a lot better in a coven, and community is important to me. Anyone who says the community is not important to them is ridiculous. You can be a solitary practitioner and still need community and still benefit from community in measured doses. If you have the hermit personality and you want to sit on the fringe, there's still room for community. I find that whenever we have a practice that is uber insular, what happens is we begin to stagnate, or we can go crazy thinking about the same thing over and over again, and then we start to unbalance things just very naturally and casually. We start to do that. Whereas if we can get out there and interact with community in any capacity, whether it be an open circle gathering or online or, you know, some other way, then you start to open up new thought processes, new opportunities for learning, engagement. And sometimes just having a conversation about a book and somebody's perspective about a book can help you to open up and see something. This is why I started off my book club, or started up a book club. It's called Avalon's Witchcraft Book Study Club, something like that. And originally I called it the Witchy Book Club, and I spaced at that time because Sammy's got a Witchy Book Club, and we had a big conversation about it, and she was chill and cash about it. But I changed the name of my book club immediately. I just feel like I need to, you know, say that out loud because, you know, I kind of poached her name and it was unintentional. And I'm like, fuck, I'm so sorry. I wasn't even thinking about it. And the fact that we started off with the same book, and there was a reason why we started off with the same book, is that I moved cross country and that was the only book that I didn't have in a box, because my moon box arrived after I'd packed up all my books, and that is the one that I just had in my car. So it was the one that I had easy access to. I'd been here for about 2.5 months and I still hadn't unpacked my boxes. So I started with that book. And, you know, and we're looking at this book now and we're examining it and we're going deep with the book. Even though the book doesn't require you to go all that deep, we're still going deep with the book. And the perspectives of people on this book, yes, you're going to find something of goodness in that book. Absolutely you are. I will never just completely write off an author, and good for her, for the book that she created. And I'm sure that out there somebody at the very, 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 very beginning of their practice will benefit from that book. But for the type of people who gravitate to me and my methods and my teaching and my style and my vibe, that book is not something we should have actually started with. And I'm like so excited that we are moving to Gemma Gary's Silence of the Trees. It's one of her newer books. And so we're going to be deep into a Gemma Gary book soon. But it's very beneficial to be able to exchange these ideas with a group of individuals, with a community of individuals, so that something that may not have been apparent to you may be articulated by another individual and then suddenly apparent to you. It's not about being influenced. It's sometimes about expanding your mind. And conversation and authentic, thought exchange and critical thinking, they help you to expand your mind. And when you have an open and expanded mind, when you begin to familiarize yourself with the ways in which you can open and expand your mind and you can critically think about things, then you start to see things, the whole world, through very different eyes. Now, I have always been able to critically think. Thankfully, I have academic parents that, were instilling on me at a very young age. What do you think? Yeah, that's what they said. That's what he, she said. But what do you think? What's your opinion on the matter? And when you go through university, and I can say this because I have been through university, when you go through university, you're not allowed your own opinion. You have to cite everybody else's opinion unless you reach mastery level or your master's level, in which case it does become about more your opinion. But you're always taught to regurgitate somebody else's opinion rather than critically think about your own opinions. And I'm asking you, what are your own opinions on the witch aesthetic? When you critically think about it and how it could impact you personally, how it impacts your practice or doesn't impact your practice, how it makes you feel and how you suppose it makes other people feel. Like, think about it critically and just let me know later. Write me something. Who knows? But, and it's important to get into that community space every once in a while or all the time if you're able to. And and, is this something that you're lacking in your practice? Is it something that, you need, really, really need? Is it something that you naturally avoid because of some unbeknownst thing? And then when you have community, you also have the heroes in the community. You have the egos of certain communities. And you will find a lot of those people on social media. Excuse me. I might need to get a tissue in a minute. You will find most of those people on social media because they're ballsy enough to put their face out there and to do the thing. For those who follow me on IG, I encourage you to just have a look at my pattern. What you will see is me photographing things rather than myself. And what you will see on someone who is a little bit more driven, a bit more modern, a bit more aesthetic is the perpetual selfie photo. For me, it's not about what I look like all the time. Sometimes I'm in a happy mood and I feel like smiling for a photo. So you'll actually be able to scroll through and see 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 10 pictures in a row and then see a photo of me and my face or me and my children or something like that. For me, it's never about the look of the witch and what the witch looks like. It's more about what she creates what he or she creates in their practice, right? And I've got to say that when we identify these egos within community, whether it be here on social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, what you will find is this false bubble around them. This false, fake bubble. And it could be there because of aesthetic or it could be there because of fancy, silver-tongued genius, right? Chances are if they're fancy, silver-tongued geniuses, they probably deserve to have a little more accolade because anyone who can truly articulate themselves, remember facts in such a manner is worthy of a bit of respect. I wish I had an eidetic memory. I actually have a super shitty memory. I flat out forget the names of books and people consistently, and it happened to me when I had babies, and I feel stupid, and that's a shadow that I've been working on because I feel a little bit stupid because I I don't remember as much as I used to. I don't have the time to read and engage my mental faculties as much as I used to. And it does have an impact on you, believe it or not, long-term, that long-term lack, it does have an impact on you. So I'm trying to work on that for myself, but that's just my thing, and that's something that I'm doing at the moment. But like I said, you will find these presence of ego within communities, and you'll find that people they want to venerate someone. They want to put somebody up on a pedestal and really venerate them and completely forget that they might actually be a person, and that they might actually not know what they're talking about at all. They just might be dressed up really nicely. Now, this is why people dress up for job interviews, folks. They dress up for job interviews, and I've been told to dress up for YouTube. I've been told to dress up for YouTube, and I'm like, no, I like being able to get on YouTube in my pajamas. It's a modern day luxury of mine because I'm just not that way inclined. Do I doll myself up to the nines to go out? Yeah, I fucking do. I'm a Taurus. I need to be the prettiest person in the room when when I'm out socially. And it's a thing, right? I have a healthy vanity. I'm a child of Venus. Come on. But the ego and that person, that individual that is being venerated, look closely, look critically at that individual. Do they deserve to be there? Everyone deserves a little sunshine. Everyone deserves a little spotlight. And everyone should have the experience in their life of having that light, that beacon of light shone upon them. Everyone deserves a little something of that, to deserve to be made feel special in that way. But not everyone's going to get there. And that's okay. Okay, I really need a tissue. I'm just going to walk. I'm just going to walk with you. Oh my gosh. See? That's where I sleep. On a Wanderer camping mattress. Okay. This is where my children sleep. There we go. I think I've got a father coming in. He's coming in for the broom. That's all right. But, oh my God. Back I go. There we are. But I hope that, I hope you understand what I'm doing here. And it's not for my subscribers that I'm doing this for. It's not because of my subscribers, I should say. I am very happy, though, that my subscribers are not shallow and that they called me on my bullshit, because I love it. I have mad respect for that. When I'm being silly, I love a friend that's going to say, fuck you, like, pull your fucking head in. Like, I love that. Mad respect for that. But it does bother me. The witch aesthetic thing does bother me, and I do want to see like how these videos actually fare. And I will tell you this now, just to be completely transparent. I researched this. I was told that if I posted my video at a particular time, and I think it was 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which actually turned out to be midnight Australian time, for Friday, Saturday or Sunday. These are the most popular days, and then something along the lines of like Tuesday and Wednesday or something like that. Anyway, there was a big write-up on this, and I did that, and I titled it just as I'd researched that I should title it, in keeping with everybody else's titles. I actually looked hard at this. This wasn't an off-the-cuff thing. This was a measured, purposeful thing, right? I woke up at 5:30, and that video had already received more views than some of my more popular videos had in that time frame, in relation to time. It also had the most thumbs down of any video I've ever put out there. The most thumbs down. It's down to 30 thumbs down right now. And people don't actually realize that whenever you thumb something down, it actually counts as a view, and it goes to my AdSense revenue, and it gives me a couple of cents. For every thumbs down, I'm getting a couple of cents. I monetize that. And it's not even about monetization. It's not even about the money. It's about the hilarious nature of the fact that that video just went so crazy. It went so crazy. Meanwhile, people reinvent themselves all the time on the internet. And I can't tell you how many personal YouTubers I know that have reinvented themselves over and over again, closed one channel, opened another, closed one channel, opened another, closed this channel, opened that channel, and changed completely genres. We had some people who were in the tarot witching community that turned out to be ASMR artists that weren't getting enough following from their tarot witchcraft, but are now as as ASMR artists, and so on and so forth. People do this all of the time. It is a thing that they do. And yet I upload one video on my channel of me dressed as Lola, Mistress of the Night. We know that she's Lola, right? So I can just say Lola and you know what I'm talking about. So as Lola, and I am like analyzed. Like I'm not even a person. I'm analyzed. And I'm accused of things, and I'm called things, and people are like, I'm disturbed. And I'm like, yeah, I'm disturbed. I'm disturbed that y'all made me do this. I'm disturbed that I had to dress up as an asshat to prove a point that I still haven't completely proved yet, because I've got 2 more videos that I've got to put up, 2 or 3 more videos that I've got to put up. But there is an actual purpose to this that goes beyond just being silly. And it's not about offending any particular individual, because I'm not here to offend. I'm simply here to state that the focus has gone from knowledge to the aesthetic. I did a whole video on this on Patreon, knowledge versus the aesthetic. All these wonderful, amazing, weird, beautiful channels out there that are putting out this mad love, not doing the same shit as everybody else, being ultra original. They're not even getting a look in, folks. They're not getting a look in. And why does that bother me? Because I like to see people succeeding. I want to see people happy. I want to see people thriving. That's my thing. This is my community. I want to look after my community. If my community is not speaking about this, I'm going to fucking speak about it. I'm going to give a shout out to the people that I think are amazing. It doesn't benefit my channel in any way, shape or form. It's just me sharing my opinion. But if I'm at least sharing my opinion, then maybe then somebody's actually talking about it. And so I want to shout out to some beautiful people out there, Look at beautiful Almoon 513, Racine. She's been doing tarot and she touches on the subjects of witchcraft forever. She does some good shit. Good shit. She's amazing at what she puts out there. She comes and she goes. She's had some personal dramas in her life and that. And, she's had a little bit of a circumstantial life change and that kind of thing. But she's still putting out really good and beautiful content. And she's looking so gorgeous and so sassy in her own way. And this is a person whose aesthetic is a little bit tied to her craft. She's a freelance makeup artist. So then again, there it is. But she's more than that. The fact that she speaks authentically, speaks with authenticity and speaks authentically is what I'm trying to say, all rolled into one. Excuse me. Like her channel should be like fucking booming again, fucking booming, and yet it's not. And beautiful Crimson Fire of the Eternal Flame Coven. Crimson Fire is a high priestess who has been cultivating her Eternal Flame Coven for damn near a fucking decade, who has textbooks this thick for her coven, which she has written herself, that are bound beautifully, who has a wealth of knowledge and experience on the subjects that she talks about. And she has been on YouTube for some time. And no channel baby. And she used to do a lot of live videos, a lot of live videos. And it's really freaking beautiful to see. And there are, oh my gosh, there have been amazing channels that have jumped on and really shared their shit. You know who I really love at the moment? Jessica the Story Witch. That bitch, I love her. She's fucking amazing. I love her voice. I want her to be an ASMR artist just for witches, because she's got such a darling voice. I love her. And she's doing the thing, right? She's doing the thing. Nico of Scarlet Moon. He's the person that gets attention, but he doesn't get as much attention as he should, because he's amazing. Now, I've had an opportunity to hang out with Nico live and to really chat with him, and he's got such a good head on his shoulders. He has such a good heart. He's got such a way with words. A really interesting individual. Add me on a Facebook. I'm kind of closet witch still. And, and it's a thing. And by the way, I'm not a snooty snob. You can add me on Facebook. Like, friends request me on Facebook, and I will accept your friend's request. And just don't message me hello, because I can't answer all of those. I've got about 1,000 hellos and how are you and are you busies right now that I just can't look at. But what about Chris Ann Donnelly? Chris Ann Donnelly, who's all about authenticity. Ethany Dawn. Ethany Dawn is killing it behind the scenes. Her work is being plagiarized by one of the most famous tarot readers out there, a woman who teaches and does the thing with tarot. If you type in any kind of tarot question, you're going to get this woman's influence. And honestly, she's good enough to rip off, but not good enough to promote. Like, fuck off. She's freaking amazing. She runs tarot summer school. She gave me space to teach tarot and witchcraft. I've got mad respect for that. I shared that space with beautiful Kellyanne and Benabelle. Again, I love Benabelle. She's lovely. And she's very helpful to me as well. Like, she's genuinely helpful to me. As an individual, and she gives me time, and she gives me her time, which I genuinely appreciate. And I learn so much from her whenever she speaks. God, there is so many incredible practitioners of witchcraft. My sister's on here watching me. Say happy birthday to my sister, Dri. Say happy birthday, please. Please say happy birthday to my sister, because I haven't called her yet for her birthday. I've been waiting for us all to be together so I can Skype her. But my kids aren't here at the moment. So say happy birthday. Yay! Thank you. But I will say this, I've come down to Tasmania where the air is clear, where people are much more friendly than I am accustomed to, and where this level of personal authenticity and openness and community are very much present, and it's having an effect on me. Living off-grid, living zero waste, not having others interfere, living on 28 acres, being able to be self-sufficient to a degree, is having a positive effect on me, and it's making me see things and it's making me feel things that I haven't for a very long time. I will tell you this as well. We bought a farm. You would know this if you were on Patreon. We bought a farm, and I've done my farm tours on Patreon through my apple tree, which is all about my family life and my family life's adventures. And we bought a farm. True story. We bought a farm. Oh, see you later, Jezebel. Hey Tammy, how you going? Tammy's from Tassie too. Not to out you, Tammy. She's from Tassie too. And as soon as I got here, Tammy sent me this beautiful little care package with a witch oil, with a Taswegian witch oil, which I thought was just so darling and lovely. But honestly, if you have liked anything that I have shared, please share this video. I don't ask that usually. I don't ask to like, share, subscribe all that often to my shit. I don't. But I think that since nobody else is talking about this, that I would think that this is an important enough video to actually share. It's very long and it's a big ramble, but it is what it is. And I would really love for people to just think a little bit before they start to adore. They start to muse over the wrong people. It's not even about that. You can muse over whoever you want. A muse is a muse. Don't let me tell you otherwise. But have a little stop and place a little emphasis on critical thinking, because it is important to be able to think for yourself. And to come to your own conclusions is a very powerful thing, to be taught to do that. To remember aspects of your craft rather than look to be taught aspects of your craft. To connect with people who are like-minded and genuine and have a depth of knowledge and a desire to do the work and or share aspects of their work. It's all very beautiful, and you can find these people. Chances are you're not going to find them very easily on the bigger channels here on YouTube. So look at your very, very, very big channels. Oh my God, I completely forgot. I was in stitches. It was sent to me. Oh my fucking God, I can't even believe this. I got sent a video to someone who had a very big channel, a witch who has a massive channel of damn near 200,000+ subscribers. Probably even more, actually. I'm not sure. Like, yeah, I think probably even heaps more than that. And it was something ultra generic and really clickbaity. And it was basically telling people they could be a tarot reader in a day, a professional tarot reader in one day, how to be a professional tarot reader in one day. And this is the thing that I have the issue with. It's like how to be a witch and how to be a professional tarot reader in one day and how to. But they're these impossible how-tos as well. And I'm more about a video that will help you to carve your path. My personal thing that I'm interested in is people's personal opinions. I want to hear a person's personal opinion, whether they're reviewing a book or a tarot deck, whether or not they're unboxing something or just telling a story. I love it when a witch sits down in front of the camera and tells a story. That really sucks me in. Not huge into tags, don't really like them. Not huge into watching live videos, although I will if the subject matter is really, really fucking good. And I hope that I've been able to give you some good subject matter here. And I've got to say, there's nothing better than hearing somebody talk about their practice and what they're working on and what they're doing and, and what they're reading. And I think I need to do a little bit more of that. I love to see it so much, but I never get to see it anymore. It's all been lost in a sea of something else. And, and it puts things into perspective. The moment you start talking about it, it actively puts things into perspective, and it allows you to sit down with the information and to look very carefully. When I came down here to Tassie and I looked around, I saw genuine and honest beauty in everything that I looked at, because fossils in the stones here, like fossils. I should go out and show you, but there's sand all out the front and I don't want to bring that sand inside my house. I will another time. These seashell fossils that were dug up from the very foundation of this little tiny home that I'm on, like things of genuine and honest, authentic beauty. There are brush-tail possums and crows and ravens and wallabies and big giant snakes and spiders and things of genuine beauty. And I look at this, I look through this lens and I think this is goddamn beautiful. This is amazing, and I'm so lucky to be here. And do you know what? I'm here because I'm a witch. I'm here because I practice witchcraft. I'm here because when I want something, I do everything in my power to achieve it. I'm here living my absolute best life because I'm a witch. And I've always said, if you want to know how good a witch is at her craft, then look at her life. Or his life. Sorry to generalize here on gender base. I'm just a female and accustomed to saying her and she and, But I'm talking about this through a greater perspective, a greater lens here, and I don't discount anyone in that lens. I'm not gender biased when it comes to witchcraft. I'm gender neutral when it comes to witchcraft. But I will say this: there is such a level of beauty here, and when I look at this level of beauty, it's wild and it's primal, and that's what I see witchcraft as: wild and primal beauty. And a witch can be beautiful in any setting, looking any way. In fact, I think that any witch that can come out with that crazy hair and that morning look, cup of coffee and PJs, like, that's just as fucking gorgeous to me. That's just as much wild witch. Like, give me a glimpse of your true nature. Give me a glimpse of your true self. And chances are you're going to see all of that before that first cup of coffee in the morning. And it's a beautiful and open and honest share in that way. And here it's so hauntingly beautiful. It gives me so much inspiration that I've been more creative here than I ever have been. And I know that I feel more grounded here than I have been. And the things that were once a priority are no longer a priority. And here's another little thing. I have moved over to Patreon because I've come down here off grid. My husband has quit his job, his very high paying permanent government job with all the benefits. He actively quit because we were looking for something that was not a default life. We were looking for some kind of meaning in a different way, and we wanted to exist in that space of meaning, and I wanted to be an inspiration. We wanted to be an inspiration to my children. I didn't want him to be the kind of dad that worked away every day and then came back and was just completely drained and depressed. I didn't want that. And I didn't want to be the squabbling couple, and I didn't want to be the materialistic couple, and I didn't want to be all of those things. If you are unhappy and dissatisfied in your life, then you have every responsibility to change that aspect in yourself. Don't ask anybody to do it for you. Change that facet of your life that you are not happy with. And that is exactly what I did. I took the steps to change those facets of my life, those fragments of my life that I wasn't happy with. But I had to have, because I am a family, I had to have my partner on board with any magic that I was to weave. And as soon as I had him on board and we were doing the minimalist thing, I had him on board. And I was able to cast magic from a perspective of a unified front, if that makes sense. And here we are on 28 beautiful acres. Did I mention that I'm completely debt-free? I'm completely debt-free. I managed to change my whole life, to make my life so much better, to make my family's life so much better, to come down here and realize a dream. And of course, I don't look like a witch. It's not how you look, mate. It's what you do with your craft. And what I did with my craft was fucking amazing. It was life-changing, in fact. And that is the byproduct of a witch and her and his magic. Is there any more that I can say about that? Witchcraft has never been about the aesthetic. It's always been about the practice, what you do as a witch. And when I was growing up, the funnest thing to do was to get together with my witchy cousins and my witchy brothers and the daughters, sons and daughters of the members of my grandmother and mother's coven, and practice our own version of witchcraft. You know, we held a seance once, my big sister and I, with a couple of the other coven peeps, and we had the neighborhood children. The neighborhood children weren't really allowed to play in our house because we were a house of witches. So when it comes to prejudice and witchcraft, trust me, I've got stories that I'm not going to share because I'm not a whingy bitch. But I've got stories, like good stories that would be like, what the fuck? Stories of violence, stories of outright degradation, stories of danger and horror and people's just ickiness. I've got stories, right? I've got heaps of them. But people weren't allowed to play in my in my house growing up, and we used to try and make it super interesting. Since we already had a stereotype placed firmly on top of us, we thought, let's play up to that stereotype. So I decided to create a kind of like a spirit board, Ouija board thing, just a cup and some letters that I'd cut out and written on a little spirit board, you know, seance style. And we were in there and we were doing our thing, and the cup flipped over. Fully flipped over. And I've got to tell you, the horror, the laughter, it wasn't so much laughter, it was more horror. And believe it or not, that little activity ended in horrified parents in the neighborhood, terrified children, and children, me, my sister, some of the other coven brats, who were totally seriously grounded, because after their massive ritual, the adults had to come in and clear the house of a spirit that we had unknowingly unleashed, and I would have been about 10. Such was my upbringing, folks. And so, you know, there's stories of witchcraft. There is stories of, there's always a story to be told with a decent witch and telling a really good story. And, you know, I'm really curious to hear other people's stories. I love their personal stories. I love hearing a witch talk about their personal stories online. And, I think it's a beautiful thing. So anyway, so I could keep going, but I'm not going to, because my brain feels like it's going to melt and come out my nose. But I would like to say thanks for all those who hung out with me here. And I had a lot of people watching, which is unusual. But thanks for hanging out with me. And I hope that you can understand where I'm coming from now, and to look at these videos in a manner that is not to take the piss or to be disrespectful, or because I've lost some kind of semblance of mental health. It's not for these reasons. It's actually a very well thought out process that I'm engaged in. It's called a social experiment for a reason. I'm experimenting with what personas can do and what the witch aesthetic can create. And the first one was a bit of a shock, and potentially I should have perhaps introduced it here more on my channel. But it was something that I kept so towards Patreon, and that's because I've been contributing more to Patreon, because I just get so much shit here on YouTube. So much fucking shit on YouTube. And then, when you put yourself out there on a social media platform, of course you're going to get some shit. Don't feel bad for me. But anyway, that's what's going on. I have not lost my mind. I am still going strong with this project. Again, if you would like to see the behind the scenes, and I should mention this as well, if you are interested in seeing any of the behind the scenes for these witchy experiments, the witch aesthetic experiments, then any pledge will gain you access to that. So whether you pledge a single dollar all the way up to $20, you will get access to that, because it's available to any Patreon of any tier. Just because it is just interesting and I wanted to do it that way. But that's what I'm doing over there. And yes, I wasn't joking, I actually have turned my Witch Weaver into a coven, because I genuinely want to share something that's of deep, nourishing and meaningful nature, and I hope it will be of benefit to other people, and that's what I feel like doing right now. I'm picking my audience very carefully, and that's because YouTube can be very mean. It can be a very mean place. Like, people have said some disgusting things to me, about my family, about my practice, about my ancestry, about the fact that I'm not Brazilian. Or that one really pisses me off. Yeah, that one really pisses me off. But yeah, it is what it is. I will drink some herbal tea, and it's a thing, and I'll chat to you guys super soon. And thanks everyone for hanging out with me. No, Hope Lewis, no. You can pledge up to $1, $2, $3. If you pledge $3 though, it will get you access to the book club as well, and $5 will get you access to the apple tree, $6 will get you access to the card slinger, and $20 will get you access to Coven and everything else. But you only need $1 for if you want to know about the witchcraft aesthetic. But anyway, guys, my battery's going flat, and I've ranted here enough, and I sincerely hope that I have said enough about this subject to have you think a little bit about it, and to let you know that no, I have not completely lost my mind. But wishing you so much love, luck, peace and joy. Please look after yourselves, and I will be talking to you super soon. Mwah. Bye.